Hello, everyone. Welcome to our on-the-go 5-minute Bible study. My name is Wes Henson, and I am pastor of the Ridge Church, and our campus is located at 7350 Old Highway 13 in Carbondale, Illinois. And as we get started today, I want you to please note the download links in the description, and we will use all of these as we prepare for our Tuesday night virtual Bible study at 6:30 p.m., which will be on Facebook and on our website. So use all of these resources that we have as we prepare for Bible study this next week. So we are in week 5 of our 6-week study titled After God's Own Heart, a fresh look at the Ten Commandments. Week 1, we talked about placing God first, and we place God first because God alone is God. Week 2, we looked at honoring God. Our relationship with God is seen in how we honor Him. And then week 3, honor parents. Honor for parents is seen in our words and our actions. And week 4, last week, we talked about honoring life, respect human life as God does. So this week, and we are preparing for October the 6th, Bible study at 6:30 p.m. on Facebook and also on our website. But this week our study is on the 7th commandment, and our lesson is titled Honor Marriage. We'll be looking at Exodus chapter 20 verse 14 for the command, and then we will follow up by looking at 2 Samuel chapter 11 verses 1 through 5. Okay, so regardless of the size and the scope of a ceremony, weddings share one thing in common, and that is union. And God calls this union a covenant, a contract, an agreement. And because the nature of this covenant is spiritually binding, honoring the marriage relationship is especially important. So over the years, the world's understanding about marriage has changed, but God's design has never changed. God's plan for marriage is a lifelong covenant between one man and one woman who would honor their relationship with faithfulness and purity. And that is God's standard. And God made this standard clear in the Ten Commandments. So when we talk about this honoring marriage, there's a lot of discussion today on what marriage is and all of that. And we can have that discussion, we can talk about it, but here is the bottom line. Whatever we say about it, this is God's standard, and God's standard does not change. Our understanding may change, our thoughts, our views, our thoughts may change, but God's standard always remains the same. And so the point of our lesson is that physical intimacy is reserved for one man and woman within the covenant of marriage. That was God's design. So our commandment is in Exodus chapter 20 verse 14, and the commandment is very simple: do not commit adultery. And the truth from that scripture is that we are to honor marriage with faithfulness and purity. Now in the New Testament, Jesus connects this command to not to commit adultery with the heart. And so it's more than just a physical act. In Matthew 5 verses 27 and 28, Jesus said, "You've heard the commandment that says you must not commit adultery. But I say anyone who even looks at a woman with lust has already committed adultery in his heart." So this commandment is far greater than just the physical act. It also has to do with our heart. And in the Hebrew culture, the heart is not just feelings, because that in our culture we think of the heart as the place of our feelings, but in the Hebrew culture, the heart was not only the place where we feel feelings, it's also the place where we think thoughts. It's our brain. It's the choices that we make. So then we go on to, from Exodus chapter 20 verse 14, to our illustration in the life of David. And remember, this study connects the Ten Commandments with an example in David's life where he either honored the command or dishonored the command. And in this passage we're going to look at that he dishonored the command in 2 Samuel chapter 11 verses 1 through 5. So David, the greatest king of Israel, disobeys God. He commits adultery, and the result is a suffering of a disastrous consequence. That's the result of his action. Truth number 2 in our lesson is we are to let faithfulness and purity guard our thoughts. And David is a prime example of what happens when we don't let faithfulness and purity guard our thoughts. He saw Bathsheba and he wanted her. Same as that. We'll develop this as we look at the study on Tuesday. Truth number 3, faithfulness includes honoring the marriage commitment of others. So not only did he desire Bathsheba, but Bathsheba was married to Uriah the Hittite, and David gave no consideration to that. So here's an observation that here is David, a man after God's own heart. And as we looked at last week, he had refused to end the life of Saul so that he could gain the throne, even though Saul was trying to kill him, and God had promised him the kingdom. And yet, so he honors life very well, honors that command, but yet he quickly breaks God's law and pursues this passion that he has by bringing a married woman to his royal palace. So that's one observation here. And another observation from this study is that, the scripture is brutally honest in portraying us as we are. There's only one person who is perfect, and that is Jesus. And so, like in every other command that we are given in the Ten Commandments, not one of us measures up 100% to any single one of the commandments. So let's wrap this up real quickly. So our culture puts great emphasis on weddings, the size and all of that, but more focus should be placed on the marriage itself. And of course, regardless of our marital status, our hearts should be pure. So anyway, that's our study, that's our wrap-up, that's our overview. Download the links. Join us on Tuesday, October the 6th on Facebook, on our website at 6:30 p.m. All right, see you then. Bye now.